Hello, guys. Welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. This is FPL Insight. I'm Gianni Butticè, and I'm joined by Kelly Somers. Kelly, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm good, Gianni. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on. This is nice to be on with you, but unnerving me that this is a bit of a role
Yeah,
reversal,
I
isn't
know.
it?
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, I'm going to be asking you the questions for once. Like, for those of you that don't know Kelly, I mean, look, she not only presents the FPL show that I sometimes guest on, but she also works for the BBC. And in the summer, Kelly, last summer, you spent a month pretty much with the England team at St George's Park. We've just had the
Oh,
World Cup draw.
yeah.
You must be buzzing about Qatar. No doubt you'll be there. But what
Yeah.
do you think to the draw? It's a good one, right?
I'm like a kid at Christmas, right? I got really excited watching it. It was obviously the longest build up ever.
Yeah.
And then when England came out so early, I was like, oh, we're there, even though obviously we qualified. Sorry, Jenny. I know not everyone qualified. But just seeing it there was really real, and seeing that draw was really exciting. I'm really intrigued facing the USA. I think they've got some really good players, and I just think there'll be a lot of hype around that game. I can just see someone like Christian Pulisic stepping up and being brilliant in that game. And some teams that we haven't played before. Plus, of course, we could still face Wales or Scotland or Ukraine. So that's really exciting. But yeah, in terms of draws for England, really good, and just makes it all feel very real.
Yeah, it does. I'm with you. That USA game could be huge.
Mm.
Like when Italy won the World Cup back in 2006, we actually had USA in our group and it was a 1-1 draw. It was a tough game. And back then, like USA didn't have a great team. And now you're right, they've got some brilliant
Yeah.
players. Like it's not just Pulisic. Like they've got a handful of very good players
Yeah.
that play in like top teams like Gio Reyna and Dest. I'm excited to see them. I think it'll be a good game that. Let's have a look at some of the other groups, shall we? So let's we're going to put on the bottom of the screen some of the other groups and give our reaction to that. So let's have a look at Group C coming up next, or Group A as well. Yeah, let's run through them in order. So Group A, we've got Qatar, Ecuador, Netherlands, and Senegal. We'll just go very quick fire. Our two we think will qualify. Like for me, Netherlands and Senegal are the two standouts here, Kelly.
What a year Senegal have had. They're riding the
Yeah.
crest of a wave, aren't they? Yeah, I think Senegal and Netherlands. Although I'm excited to see Qatar, obviously it'll be really exciting for them. And I always love seeing how our host nation does. But yeah, I think same here with the two that will go through.
Yeah, guys in the chat, let us know who you're backing. Like backing for the World
Mm.
Cup. Like, give us your winner in the chat. We're obviously going to be answering questions throughout the stream. We'll be with you for about 35, 40 minutes. Coming up, we've also, by the way, got Kelly's potential wild card. We're going to be looking at my team as well. And as always, on a Friday, we've got Against the Obvious. But let's have a little look at some of the other groups in quick fire fashion. Good to see Nuclear Atoms, Desire, Laura, Michael, Daniel, Jasper, all with us. Let's have a look at that Group C. There's a couple of standout teams again, I think. Like, there isn't really a massive group of death as we always see in World
No,
Cups, is there?
no.
There's not like, oh, it could be two of any of those four. Like this one, you look at Argentina, and then it's kind of toss of a coin between Mexico and Poland. Who would you go with out of those two?
Do you know what? I was at Russia 2018, and watching Mexico was so exciting. I remember
Was
that was
it?
before Raul Jimenez had come to the Premier League, I think, and there was like so much excitement around him. And I love the Mexican fans. There was some terrible footage of me wearing a sombrero that did the rounds on Australian TV. I think Poland, though. I think Poland's and Argentina for me.
Love that. Yeah, Mexico did they have Lazaro, the winger that got a move to
Yes,
Napoli?
yes,
And he's
they did.
not been great in Serie A, but had a brilliant World Cup. Okay, let's have a look at Group D now as we go through. This is France, and France could play England if they win their group and England win theirs. I think they meet in the quarterfinals. I think,
Yeah,
which
might work out.
could be an interesting tie that. So France, and then look, we don't know one of those three, Denmark and Tunisia. I'd love to see Ericsson at a major tournament again, and I'd love to see him qualify. Cool.
Yeah, I think France and Denmark for me from that group as well. I'm being quite boring here, aren't I?
Yeah, we are gonna pick some wildcard options. I'm sure we will. Look, Michael in the chat's already said Italy win. Oh wait, I love that. Jasper says Germany. A few are saying Germany and a few Spain so far. Group E, we've got Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, Japan. I always thought Japan could be a standout team, but they've got a hard group.
Yes. Do you know what? That's an interesting group, actually. That one's harder to pick. Obviously, you're going to say Spain and Germany, but yeah, I'm still going to say Spain and Germany. You can't really back against them, can you?
Yeah, like two of the favourites. To see Germany in pot 2 was pretty weird. Like they're always in pot 1.
Yeah.
So let's move on to a F now. Get my letters right. Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. Oh, I mean, Morocco have got some good players.
Morocco have, obviously Belgium because they're Belgium and they've got, well, we'd be here all evening if we listed all their good players.
True.
Croatia, I don't know if they were the force they once were, but I think they know how to get out of groups and they know how to navigate their way around competitions. So yeah, those two for me.
Yeah, I'd love to see Ziyech play in like a World Cup. Like he's fallen out with the Moroccan coach. He didn't play in AFCON, but I wonder who'll be there and if he makes it, because he's one of their standout players. You've got to take him to a World Cup.
Yeah.
Let's move on and look at G. This is Brazil's group, the favourites for the tournament. This is a tough one. Who would be your second choice team out of these three?
Switzerland.
Yeah, they're a good tournament team, Switzerland. Yes. They seem to always qualify, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. Although I'm excited to see Cameroon out there. I'm really excited to see some of the African nations out there. Yeah, I'm still going to go Switzerland, sorry.
I'm going to go for a Mitrovic special and go Serbia, just because I'm excited to see Mitrovic back in the Premier League with a manager and in a team that actually where he functions. Because under Scott Parker at Fulham, he wasn't brilliant in the Prem. But I think next season he could be good. A good FPL option, Mitrovic.
Oh, no, don't go too early. Gosh. I'm not
He'll be like Tony this season.
I've been burnt by him too many times.
Yeah. Okay, a couple of comments saying Group H might be seen as the group of death. So let's have a look at Group H. It's Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, South Korea. And yeah, perhaps that is the toughest. But we expect Portugal to qualify. Ghana are strong. Uruguay have got some aging players, but always there or thereabouts too.
Ghana are an interesting one in that group. I don't think you can overlook Ghana too much. So yeah, Portugal... Yeah, I know what people are saying about I don't know if it's a group of death, but it's a tricky one to call. I fancy Ghana.
Leo in the chat said Portugal versus Uruguay, red cards, question mark. Like there's a few players in that. Like you look at Uruguay, they've got Godin, the centre back, who must be about 40 now. And I think is it Jimenez at the back as well. And Portugal, we know like Pepe is probably going to be in that Portugal team, aged again like 40. It'll be him or Jose Font at centre back with Diaz, which is crazy.
I thought that is, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff. I've really enjoyed looking at that little World Cup preview. Something a little bit different. We obviously usually are here to chat only FPL, but look, we had to react to that. But we'll move on and look at some more sort of FPL chat. But before we do, guys, if you're new around here, please do like and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the season, and we're well on our way. We're over the 800 mark now, so help us get there. But next up, we're going to have a little bit of Pep Roulette. I love that graphic so much.
Dramatic, just like Pep Roulette.
Exactly. Like this is the time of the week. Like guys, if you are tuning in and you're like, where is Dean? Dean is in Chicago. He will be back on Monday at 7. Remember, we're always here Monday and Friday at 7 p.m. UK time. Dean usually, Kelly, on a Friday he'll pick 3 teams and do his like predicted 11s. And he's very, very good at it, as you might expect. So we're not going to do that today in Dean's absence. It just doesn't feel right without him. But we are going to look at one team in Man City and just go through a few of their players. For those that are looking at bringing Man City assets in, let's look at those and think, okay, which ones can we safely say are nailed? And when I say nailed, let's assume nailed means what? They've got 9 games left or 10 games left. It means they start every game between now and the end of the season other than, say, 1. Okay. So those that we can say are pretty nailed. So Kevin De Bruyne, we're confident he starts pretty much every game, right?
Yeah. Because I don't think who can replace Kevin De Bruyne? I think he's different enough from the rest of the options, and I think they can manage him through the games. I think he'll be taken off early in a lot of them, but I think he'll start the majority. Yeah,
and a legit like FPL option. If you're looking for a differential, you've got ground to make up.
Isn't he? Was he 11-7? Is he that much?
Yeah, he is. It's like that's Salah, almost Salah and well, I was going to say Bruno in years gone by.
If you want to have, it feels to me like towards the end of the season, you need to have Harry Kane, you need to have Mo Salah.
Yeah.
And some of the defenders, Cancelo, who I'm sure will come on to, Trent, Robbo, whatever, if you want to have a Reece James, then trying to get Kevin De Bruyne in is quite tough. If you can do it, go for it. But I think that's going to be most people's issues with De Bruyne.
Yeah. So if you're not going De Bruyne, who do you go for at the midfield options? Because they are all cheaper than him. Who would be your one?
Come on. Why am I answering this question? Because you know who you're the chairperson, as I said in the FPL show, you're the chairperson of the Phil Foden fan club. You don't have him at the moment, but you said you are going to rectify him. You did the Foden to Havertz transfer, didn't you? And you're at some point probably going to reverse that. For me, Phil Foden is, well, it's tough because Riyad Mahrez is their top scorer. He's getting the goals. I've had Riyad Mahrez a few times, and every time I've had him when he's not been getting the goals. I brought him in on my free hit a few weeks ago. So for me, it's still Phil Foden. I think at his price point, he offers really good value for money.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Of course I do. He started 8 of the last 8 Premier League games. So we always talk.
Surprises me, actually.
Yeah. He missed the FA in typical fashion. Man City played, I think, Southampton in the FA Cup last time out, and he was on the bench. But in the Premier League, he gets picked. So yeah, I expect Foden to be pretty nailed.
Also, if you do invest in Foden and he is benched, because he's that little bit cheaper, as long as your bench is strong enough, I feel like you don't mind as much. Whereas it's a bit tougher to take if you spent the money on Raheem Sterling or Kevin De Bruyne and they are benched, because that's a lot of money to not be playing. Whereas with Phil Foden, because you're playing a little bit less, it kind of is, for me, it takes the edge off if he doesn't start.
Yeah, as John Cahill says, false 9 for City for 7.8 is madness.
Exactly. Yeah,
you've got it. And look, the other Man City midfielders, I don't think, unlike KDB and Foden, we can say they're going to play that 90% of games. But other options, Ederson, sure we can. And at the back, which players can we safely say are going to play kind of 9 in 10 at the back for City?
I'm going to say, well, at the moment, so what's the latest with Ruben Diaz?
Yeah, I think this week's going to be too soon, but maybe in the next fortnight, I think he'll be back. So Laporte does look like a good option.
But yeah, the problem is when Ruben Diaz comes back, that's kind of your issue. I'm going to hold my hands up and say that I took Joao Cancelo out a few weeks ago. Did he miss the game, or he was going to miss? We thought he was going to miss a game. I took him out, and I've got real fear. We'll come on to whether I'm going to wildcard shortly. I've got real fear of not having him this weekend. I don't think he will start every week. That said, he's looked quite rotation proof. So I kind of feel like, I don't want to say he's essential, but he's not far off it for me.
Yeah, like he's 100% the standout. I think he's the second best value player in the game behind Trent. And they're both defenders, these best value players. If you look at like points per million, he's right up there. Yeah, Cancelo for me, like we said on the FPL show yesterday, didn't we? As throw a bit of a curveball out there, and he's just got a cheeky sort of suspicion that Cancelo might be benched at the weekend. And I sort of came back and was like, not a chance.
He was wanting to be nice to me because he knows I didn't have him.
Yeah, you're probably right. And he is like the nicest bloke you'll ever meet. So I could see that. But yeah, for me, I think Cancelo plays like 9 in 10 and he's so good. And he's a bonus points magnet. So in summary, we go Cancelo, KDB, Foden, obviously Ederson. But they're the ones we think like you can probably hang your hat on, right?
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, look, we're not going to go through all the 11s as I said. We've done our Cancelo chat, guys. Get your questions in, and we're going to be looking very shortly to see if Cancelo has made Kelly's wildcard draft. But we're here to answer your questions this Friday night, so do get them in. Obviously, like and subscribe to the channel. But let's move on now and have a look, as we always do, at our team reveals. Here we go. So this is your actual team without a transfer being made. You've used your bench boost and no, you've not used your bench boost or your free hits. You've got 2 chips and this is your 11 at the moment. What are you thinking?
I think my face says it all, doesn't it? This team is nowhere near ready. This team is in need of a wild card and will be wild carded. Well, obviously, I'm not going to waste my wild card. Full disclaimer, I went on holiday and I didn't want the wild card to stress me out. However, I also was waiting on press conferences. I wasn't sure if I wanted to wildcard this week and if this was the right time. And because I don't hate this team for this week. No. I am fully aware that I've got multiple issues and I don't want probably eight of these players long term. But this week I'm quite happy. However, the press conferences have thrown a few spanners in the works. I didn't think Reece James was going to be in the squad this week, so I thought I'd be all right with Rudiger for another week. Reece James is someone that I want on the wild card. Obviously, I don't think Ramsdale's going to start. Ben Foster against Liverpool isn't ideal, but I can deal with that.
Yeah.
Then my midfield I'm happy with. Harry Kane, obviously I'm happy with. I've got the key players in there that I really want. Cancelo is my concern. My one transfer is, if I don't wildcard, my one transfer would just be Jimenez to probably Weghorst to kind of cover myself with the double. Then I would bench Ivan Toney. However, my other idea that I had midway through the FPL show yesterday was if I'm at wildcard next week, that means I've kind of got a free pass for this week and I can make a transfer for someone I don't want long term. What about Luis Diaz against Watford? What about trying to get Trent in? I don't think I can do that because of funds. So that's my other option, or I just wildcard completely. Who
It's
knows?
such a headache because you've got a couple of chips and you know you want to be using that bench boost close to your wild card, right? So look, everyone in the chat, great to see so many opinions on that. It seems like the consensus is kind of that your team looks pretty good. And look, one in the chat, FPL Harry, I think, who's a very good FPL manager. He's in a similar position off the top of my head. Harry, let me know if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you were also considering a wild card this week or wild card perhaps in sort of 35. So you're setting yourself up for a bench boost 36. So let us know where you're thinking. But Harry doesn't think you perhaps need to. FPL Alex has said a simple transfer of Tony to Weghorst this week could be the one.
But the thing is, I think I would do Jimenez to Weghorst because ultimately on a wild card, Tony or Jimenez, which a wild card will happen in the next 3 weeks. Tony and Jimenez, neither of them are going to stay. But if I do Jimenez to Weghorst, then I've got a little bit more money in the bank, and I'm not averse to taking a -4 because I could take 1 or 2 -4s over the next couple of weeks, get myself through to 33 with maybe, at the moment I haven't got many doublers, but I could get myself to 33 with a couple of hits along the way and have maybe five or six doublers, and then wild card for 34 onwards. My issue then is, though, are you really maximising your wild card if you only get 4 weeks out of it?
Yeah, that does seem to be like a common sort of question managers ask that are holding it. But I do think if you go 34, let's look at where you would use your chips if you do go 34. If you go wildcard 34, you're almost certainly going to be bench boosting in that big double in 36. We hope there'll be a big double there. So when would you free hit if you wildcard? Would you free hit 33?
No, my original plan and I would still, I think I would like to bench boost in 33. However, the seven teams that double don't make me that excited. And this is what, keeping my wild card in my back pocket till 34, the teams that are going to double come the end of the season, your Cities, your Liverpools, they're going to have a lot to play for. They're going to go strong. I could then wild card in a really strong looking team. I could go big on those kind of players that do have doubles. And that might give me an advantage. That's my theory. So in my head at the moment, bench boost 33. And I still think without my wildcard before then, I can get to a good bench boost squad. It's bench boost 33, wildcard. And then is my free hit redundant because I've already set myself up?
You could have fun though, because that wild card in say 34 that you go with, you could purposely not pick some of those that others are having to go to because they want to cover the double. Well, you know in 36 you'll be free hitting, so you can swerve those and maybe have a really nice 37 week when everyone else is a bit of a rubbish 37 week because you've beeline for the 37 players on your wild card, for example. So I don't mind it.
It's interesting, isn't it? 33 is tricky because, so the other reason I want a wild card, and we all do this, don't we? We all get double game week fever, where I'm like, well, I need to wild card because I need to get double game week players in for 33. But like I said, I don't look at those teams that I don't want a wild card full of players that are doubling necessarily. When I wild card, I want to be able to bring in your Phil Fodens. I want to bring in Kai Havertz, and they don't double. And so then I'm at risk of getting 33 fever on this wild card and ending up with a squad for the next 8 weeks. That after 33, I'm going to go, why did I do that?
Yeah,
so,
it feels a bit like that. I think you've almost, in a way, talking yourself out of it, which I think is a good thing. You're going through the same process and no doubt the same sleepless nights that many of us FPL managers can relate to. And look, in the chat, there's loads of great suggestions just for transfers. So FPL Salah, for example, who you know well from the FPL show, Abdul, he's watching tonight. And
Abdul, I love Abdul because obviously worked with Abdul on the FPL show, and he's having a brilliant season, isn't he? By the way, I don't know where his rank is at the moment.
I think he's top 5k, maybe top couple.
It's crazy. Yeah. So if Abdul is telling me not to wildcard, I'll do it. And look at that, he's saying Jimenez to Weghorst and bench Tony, which was my theory. My question to people watching is, would I not have more, if this week I did wildcard, would I not get more upside out of having the likes of Reece James, Kai Havertz, or is this team okay? That's
you and Abdul are more similar than you think. So he has still got he's still got his wild card and he's still got a bench boost and a free hit. I'm just looking at the chips he's got remaining. So you guys, and he's at 6.5k. So Abdul, you're not as not quite as high as I thought, which means you're still in my sights, mate. I'm at 14k. I'm chasing you down.
When's he going to use his wildcard? That's what I don't know. I'm basically going to copy Abdul.
Yeah, I'm thinking with that suggestion, he's like you and like FPL Harry as well. Probably going to be holding for 34 or 35. So let us know, Abdul, in the chat. Let's have a look. If you were to, FPL Alex, just quickly, Rafinha to Mount or Havertz, -4 after Jimenez, and then Weghorst if you have the funds.
See, my issue with that is that Rafinha for the next 2 weeks, I don't think is a bad pick.
Agreed.
That said, we've been saying it all season, haven't we? I think Az or someone called him a points dodger.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah. So I'm being lured in by Rafinha, but I think if I was to do a -4, which, as I've said, then I'm not against at all. Could I not strengthen my defence a little bit, because I'm not wild about Doherty, mind you. Equally, Rudiger. It's a nice fixture. I'm being lured in by Reece James. I've spent too much time with Az and you.
Yeah, we do both love Reece James. That FPL Salah has gone with. And look, by the way, guys, for those of you that don't know, give FPL Salah a follow on Twitter. Like, he is legitimately one of the best FPL managers I know. He's wildcarding in 34, bench boosting in 36, which is what you recommended, said. And then free hit 37. Yeah. Or even, and then if you don't like the 37 free hit 38 could be loads of fun. I know that's single game weeks, but you could just go on the teams that have something to play for.
Also, though, I wonder how many doublers, and this is a question again for people in the chat, how many doublers, God, that sounds so loserish, doesn't it? How many double game week players do we think we need in 33? Bearing in mind what I've said there, that there's teams with good fixtures, like Spurs haven't got a double, but have got a good fixture in that week. So I don't want to be blinded by doubles, but equally I don't want to miss out on the fun of doubles. So yeah, I wonder how many double game week players people think we need in 33.
Doublers, you're one of us, Kelly. You're one of us. Let's have a look at that wildcard draft that you have put together. That might mean a few say, "Oh, maybe go there." I mean, this is a hell of a team. I'm
0.2 short of this, just to point out. Gianni, last night, before we knew I was coming on the show, actually, I was chatting with you, wasn't I? And I sent you probably 4 or 5 different wildcard drafts because I couldn't decide. I was just having a bit of fun. We were trying to work out what the upside was. Yeah. And this would be my ideal team if FPL would like to give me 0.2 more. I like
perks of the job.
Yeah, I like having, and I don't have any power like that. I like the idea of having Robbo and Trent because that covers me if Trent doesn't play. That said, James, is he still a risk this week? Cancelo is my one concern. I said this on the FPL show. Yeah. Cancelo is my concern this week. If I don't have him, I could be penalised.
Yeah, he's the upside with Cancelo this week. We know Man City love playing Burnley. They're the perfect opponent. And Cancelo is just like a man possessed at the moment. I mean, you could save that point. You could go Cucho down to, you've got a bench boost. I was going to say you could write off that third forward spot and go Gelhardt, but of course you can't. It's a tempting one, but
That said, if you look at this team as well, my other thing is, right, that midfield, I don't think is exceptionally better than my midfield initially.
Gordon weakens it.
3 of the 5 there. Kai Havertz is an upgrade, clearly, on Barnes, although let's have a good record at Manchester United and Rafinha. But as you've said, Gordon, other than the double, that's the only reason I'm bringing him in. Yeah. And really, do I want to bring in an Everton side who have a pretty poor record away from Goodison Park? Not really. Then my front 3, I'm going to get Kane and Weghorst anyway with the transfer and bench that third striker. So I'm essentially this week wildcarding for a better defence.
Yeah.
Yes, it is better. It is better, but is it that much better to use? I don't know. Yeah.
I think I'm going in the same direction as what you're thinking, which is perhaps to hold and just make that simple transfer. You can bench Tony, you can go Jimenez to Weghorst, and then you got a bit of money in the bank for the next couple. You can still bring in.
I might be able to do Luca Digne to Cancelo then.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad 4-point hit. You did say you might be open to a 4-point hit. And then if you're wildcarding after 33, you can still bring in a Man United player because you know you're dead ending your team, right? So the problem with United midfielders is
we just said in the chat I need a second City player.
Oh, okay.
At the moment, Jerome, I don't have one at all, but I've just thought about bringing Cancelo in for -4. This is my concern. And this is the reason I might hold off the wild card, because if I am to wildcard in 34, then I wouldn't think twice about being a second City player in. But at the moment, I'm being a bit blinkered by these doubles and players
that are double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jerome, I agree with you.
Your wildcard will look amazing in 34 or 35 because we'll know the 36, 37 fixtures by then. Ben Crellin, who's a fixture expert, he thinks that by the start of game week 34, so somewhere between 33 and 34, we will know all the 36 and 37 doubles.
Okay.
So to be able to wildcard knowing that data, knowing those fixtures are set in stone would be such a luxury. So yeah, I think you perhaps hold, but
Keeper,
I look forward to seeing what you do.
I wanted to quickly flick on the keeper as well. Schmeichel, I think, is a really nice keeper. Who do you think, Gianni, is the best keeper option going forward? Because if Ramsdale didn't have this injury, this would also, I wouldn't even be probably considering wildcard. And Nuclear's just said the why Schmeichel, they're rubbish at the back. You're better off getting Pope. I do see a point there, but let's have so many games to be rearranged. They're getting key defenders back for Fafana. Who else they got back? Johnny Evans. They don't have Ndidi. He's ruled out for the season. That's a concern. But he's one Leicester player that's going to be nailed in this run-in, and that for me is quite attractive when they've got so many games to be rearranged.
Yeah, and as Nick says, like that the Justin injury, he's back. Fofana, Castagna, all these names coming back into that team. If they go out of Europe against PSV as well, then they're well placed to concentrate on the Premier League, and I could see them losing to PSV. So
also, he's a little bit cheaper. I was quite surprised.
It's a lot cheaper. Is Pope like 5.4?
Yeah, I was so surprised. I think when that came up on the FPL show yesterday, I think you visibly saw my shock because I was like, oh no, it was on the podcast actually when we did it on the FPL podcast yesterday. I was 5. Like, how is that a thing that? Well, I suppose it's because of his form over previous seasons, but Nick Pope is more expensive than Ramsdale. He's more expensive than Schmeichel. So for me, saving 0.6 by going Schmeichel makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'm with you then. I've loved looking at your team. I much enjoy looking at people's wildcard drafts and stuff like that.
I don't like this.
So to find out what you do, Kelly, I guess we'll be able to maybe see a tweet or an Instagram post tomorrow morning. You'll probably sleep on it and make a call in the morning, I expect.
I think I know which way I'm leaning now. I think this feels like it's been quite cathartic, and I think I'm probably going to hold. I've got to be honest as well. Abdul FPL Salah has swayed my decision a little bit. I'm very easily swayed.
Yeah, good job, mate. Good job, Abdul. Guys, we're going to have a quick look at my team, but before we do, I just want to introduce a little title sequence. And before we play it, look, here's a deal. If you like this title sequence, then you've got to give us a like and you've got to subscribe if you don't already. So let's check it out. There we go. Surely you like that. Subscribe if you did. So look, we're looking at my team now. We're going to be really quick on mine. 14k. I'm on a massive red arrow. I was at 10k last week. I wish I had free hit. I had 5 players in the end. Obviously, no Ramsdale, Rafinha, and players like that who we thought would start. I think I need to sell Kilman. Like my 11's pretty good, and I'm happy. But if Trent doesn't play, Amati might not play, and Kilman might not play. So I don't want to be left with only 2 defenders. So I've got to sell Kilman. Do I go Reece James? I can afford him. I've got 2.5 million in the bank. Or do I go Burnley defence? Now, as you said last night, Kay, like Burnley defence is a little bit sort of blinkered by the doubles, but Burnley defender does allow me loads of money in the bank still to then maybe bring in Bruno for Havertz in 33.
Also, when I talk about being blinkered by doubles, I think for how much a Burnley defender costs, if you go with someone like Tyler Roberts, they do play 5 times in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So that is quite appealing, even if he's a short-term pick. And I agree with you that I think maybe now is the time to part company with Kilman. Can I just flag one thing in your team, Gianni? That, and obviously your Chelsea are kind of your team, so you know them a lot more. Do you worry a little bit? You're talking about bringing Reece James as well. The one thing that really worries me with Chelsea is the other competitions as well. They're comfortably in third, aren't they? Really, they're not going to win the Premier League. Will Kai Havertz start week in, week out? Will Reece James be risked in the Premier League because he's one of their best players? Will they not want to ease him back in so he's ready for the cup competitions?
Yeah, it's the $1 million question, isn't it? The problem is even if these guys, especially Reece, even if he starts, I don't know, 5 or 6 out the next 10 Premier League games, you still back him to get huge points. Like I'd rather Reece James on 6 out of 10 playing than Rudiger on 9 out of 10. Like that's how good Reece is when he does play. And Havertz is a funny one. Like he's definitely our standout attacker at the moment, and I include the midfielders in that. And I think he probably starts 7 out of 10, and Lukaku gets maybe 3 of them. But yeah, it is a bit of a concern that these guys could come on for 10, 15 minutes and get the 1-pointers. That's the slight concern, and that's what's put me off Reece. I think Reece James will play 2 of the next 3 Premier League games. I just like this Brentford fixture. I do think he starts this weekend, and I think he probably comes off at 60, 70 minutes. But 60 minutes of Reece James is got a huge ceiling compared to Roberts at Burnley, who, what am I hoping for then? Best case scenario, I get 8 points. I get 1 clean sheet and then the 2 appearance points against City. But the best case scenario of Reece James is 20 points on any given week.
Yeah.
I just feel like I've got to be there for the upside.
Yeah, if you invest in someone like Reece James, that's what you're there for, isn't it? And we talked about it on the FPL show where it shows what kind of manager you are. I went for Rudiger when Reece James went big the other week, and I regretted that, and that's kind of something I've learned, and that's why when I do my wild card, I'll get Reece James, and that's why I kind of, obviously I'm really pleased he's back. He's an England international. I'm pleased. I don't never want anyone to be injured, but I was kind of hoping Tuchel said, "Oh, we need another week," because then I can happily have Rudiger for another week and not worry about Reece James. Because when you don't have Reece James, let's be honest, you're going to worry about him.
You really are. I'm the same as you. I was really, in a way, I was like, look, just come out and say he's not ready yet, but it will start. He'll be ready for Real Madrid, which is kind of what I wanted to hear from an FPL point of view. And look, tonight at 8 o'clock, I'm doing a Twitter Spaces, and guys, hopefully you can join us for that. And Kelly might drop in too. Mark Southerns is on, and I know if I ask his opinion, and like you saying with Abdul, this is one guy's opinion I always want. And Mark, I know will say to me, go for Reece because the upside's there. So I think he might convince me to go there instead of going safe with Burnley. FPL River, same keepers as me. Happy with Foster versus Liverpool if Ramsdale doesn't play.
Same as me as well. And that's one of
It's not looking good for Ramsdale, is it? He hasn't trained.
No. It is Monday though, so we might have a little bit longer. The one concern for me is how many Premier League clubs have 2 goalkeepers as good a calibre as Arsenal do, because Bernd Leno came in and did well against Aston Villa. He's not a bad goalkeeper. He's just playing behind an exceptional goalkeeper. So I don't think Arsenal are going to be any rush to get Ramsdale back if they don't need to. So I don't think Ramsdale starts, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I might be relying on Foster, and I can't see Foster keeping. Well, he's definitely.
I get some save points.
He might get loads of save points. He might save a penalty. Salah's just missed one last week. I don't think there'll be any laser pens in the crowd at Anfield. So yeah, he should be fine. John says, "Is Mount more nailed than Havertz for minutes?" I don't think so. I think they'll both start, as I said, sort of 7 or 8 out of 10. What do you reckon, Kelly?
I don't know. I think that Mount is the second best player in that Chelsea attack, and I think they're so much better when he does play. But it goes back to my concerns about Chelsea attack in general, really. I guess with Havertz, they could choose to play Lukaku, and there's maybe an argument they need to play Lukaku a little bit to try and play him into some form, and because of his price tag, they want it to work out with him. With Mount, do they have a direct, obvious like-for-like replacement, would you say?
Probably not. No one that plays with that sort of intensity. The high press Mount gives, and Tuchel loves that. I don't think so. Guys in the chat, thank you all for joining. Give us a like and a subscribe. We're getting to as many questions as we can. We've seen Kelly's wildcard draft. She's perhaps thinking not to wildcard. I'm in a bit of a dilemma. Do I go Burnley defender, which is safe, or I've got the money to go Reece James? Eddie saying one option could be to go James, Sancho, Gelhardt, or okay, this is a question from Eddie. Okay, does he go Reece James, Sancho, and Gelhardt, or Cancelo, Havertz, and Gelhardt? I think you go Cancelo and Havertz.
Same. I think you take there's basically you're doing James and Sancho or Cancelo and Havertz there. And for me, Cancelo will definitely. I think Cancelo and Havertz are more likely to start. I think Sancho is going to become an FPL option. He's someone we should be monitoring. But if you're going to basically pick Sancho and Havertz against each other at the moment, I would go Havertz.
Guys, it's time for my favourite time in the show. And this is when we do something that usually ruffles a few feathers in what is called Against the Obvious. Russell's a few feathers. I just practiced that 3 or 4 times in the break and I still can't do it. I'll get there for next week. Look, I've picked a player and Kelly's going to do the same coming up. That it's a really popular pick, but I'm going to give you 60 seconds worth of why you shouldn't pick Andrew Robertson starting from now. So, Robbo shouldn't be in your team, guys. Look, I know he's brilliant and I know he's been outperforming Trent for the last couple of weeks. But over any given long period of time, and let's say 9 game weeks, 10 game weeks, what we've got left, Trent outperforms Romo. Now, you could say there is an argument to go both of them, but if you do that, and I'm assuming we've all got Mo Salah, of course we've all got Mo Salah. If you do that, you're limited with that third Liverpool player. And for me, that third Liverpool player shouldn't be a defender. And I know Robbo's attacking, but it might be a fun free hit or 1 week punt on someone like a Jota, someone like a Diaz. A Mane, he's someone I'm eyeing up, like for a 1 week punt later in the season, playing number 9. I just think Robbo, sure, he might be on set pieces without Trent in the team. I still don't think he's going to keep a huge amount of clean sheets. And Trent is far more reliable for attacking returns. Robertson is too expensive. Go Cancelo, go Reece James instead. He's not for me. Sorry, team. I know he's popular.
Controversial, that, Gianni.
I know. And I know when we were on the show yesterday, James was pushing me on it because I know James is really keen to sell Trent to Robbo. But look, if you're going to sell Trent, I guarantee you're going to want to bring him back.
Yeah, that is the problem. People were saying to me, why don't I get rid of Trent on my wildcard this week? I mean, that was before we kind of had a bit more confirmation that he could play this weekend. But for me, if you've got Trent as well, the problem is you're going to have quite a lot of money in him. And then you've got to find that money to bring him back. And yeah, it's risky if you do that move, in my opinion.
Yeah, like most selling Trent and then having to bring him back will lose around 0.5. Like that's a huge amount of money. That's the difference between a Gelhardt that doesn't play and a Cucho that does, for example. Guys, the chat was really funny then. Like FPL Harry trying to keep a straight face while saying Robbo is bad. Gianni is like, yeah, I mean, you're quite right. Like, guys, we pick a player and it's always a popular asset. And this has probably been the hardest sell was Robbo this week. Kelly, we're going to give you one. We haven't got the graphic on screen, but I'm going to get my phone up and I'm going to do the 60-second countdown on my stopwatch. And I'm going to fire out, just like you have in your ear when you're presenting. I'm going to just be like 30 seconds, Kelly, 20 seconds. And I might throw a few curveballs in there. And having worn talkback for the first time for the last few weeks, I cannot tell you what an amazing skill it is that any TV presenter has. Like all the voices in your ear and you're still delivering ad-lib down the camera. Came home and said to my wife, I was like, these guys are insane. How you do that?
It's like I always think of it as like, it's like a child when you're growing up and you just want to ignore your parents and they're shouting at you. It's kind of a bit like that. Although obviously you don't ignore people, but you have to be tuned into just your name. There was one incident yesterday on the show where something went slightly wrong. And Gianni, you know the moment I'm talking about. And I was talking and I was just like, I don't know which, I hear them debating it in my ear. And I mean, it's fine. No one really notices. But yeah, there's not just one person in there. There's lots of people in there. So yeah.
Yeah, it's
like lots of little voices in your head.
So you're only going to have one today, but it's going to be me. And I might say some random stuff. So just ignore me and you go for 60 seconds as to why. And well, you can start with naming a player and then just go and I'll start the clock.
Okay, so the player I'm going to go for, and this was tough because I'll be honest, I nearly went for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But then when I found out you were going for Andy Robertson, I thought I needed to go for someone that's had slightly better form recently. So I'm going to go for Alexander Lacazette of Arsenal. So the Arsenal captain has been in pretty good form in terms of providing pretty consistent returns for us in FPL. He's blanked in his last 2 games, getting 2 points in both matches. But he's been providing the assists, hasn't he? So if you've had him, you've been getting a nice steady return of 5 or 6 points over the past few game weeks. And in a season where there haven't been many forwards that have been providing regular returns, he's been a nice option. Now, Arsenal have good fixtures going forward. However, he is not scoring
30 seconds left.
1 goal in 2022 so far. And he's not exactly cheap. He's 8.4 million. There's some cheaper options. More money into your midfield. And if you want Arsenal options, you should be going for the midfielders. Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli in far better form. And they will provide you
15.
goals, which in terms get you more points. Bukayo Saka, 6.8 million. Martinelli, 3. Even Smith Rowe for 5.7.
5 seconds.
If you have Alexander Lacazette, you've got to wait until Monday for the disappointment of when he doesn't score again.
Oh, that 5 seconds, you managed to even finish exactly on 0. Impressive. I think that's a good argument for not going Lacazette. Like, it's the price for me. He's just so expensive, isn't he?
I also forgot to say that he did score in the reverse fixture against Crystal Palace. But actually, I was at that game and it finished 2-2. And Palace were unlucky not to win. So I think that Palace at Selhurst Park, I think, I think that's a tough game for Arsenal.
Kelly, you firstly, very good job. That's not easy. But you mentioned Saka. Just very briefly, you're someone that spent a lot of time with the England team in the summer. And you interviewed so many of the players. Saka, it seems like the nicest bloke ever, like quite a timid young lad. Is he just a really nice bloke?
He's really funny, and Arsenal fans watching will know that his nickname that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang gave him was Little Chilly, and I spent ages in the build-up to the interview trying to learn how to say that in whatever language. Why have I gone blank? French. And it was petit piquant or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, so in this interview, I was all like prepared to say it to him in that, and I said it wrong, and he just went, "Say that again." And I said it, and I was like, "Have I said this wrong?" And then he just couldn't stop laughing about the fact that I'd said it wrong, but in a really nice, endearing way.
Yeah.
And I don't know if viewers remember that during the Euros, there was a video of the players trying to play golf. There was a golf simulator at George's Park, and Saka, oh my gosh, very talented footballer.
Is he rubbish at golf?
And there was this video that went around and he just couldn't hit it. It was really, really funny. So we talked about that, laughed about that, and just really humble. Everything that you've seen of him looks really true. And that was why what happened to him after that with the penalties was heartbreaking, because what a player, just a raw talent, a boy living his dream. Just a really nice kid. So yeah, love him. I try not to be an emotional FPL manager, but when he started getting the points this year, I was like, yes, he's the kind of player I want in my team because I like him too.
Yeah. For you that actually knows so many of these footballers, it must be really hard, like to always want to pick players you like, because they're like almost.
Can I point out as well though, Mason Mount? Do you remember? I
was going to ask you about Mount because you played darts with him, right?
Yes, I played darts with him, and then during the tournament he all kind of stopped and would always chat. Without going into too much detail, when they walked into their interview zones, we were in individual like blocks, like outdoor blocks, because it was all in COVID times. He would always say hello, always come over and chat. And basically this season, again, because I really like him, do you remember he was coming back to fitness? It was when Chelsea were rotating quite a lot and they had Watford next, and I was a Watford fan. I was like, right, he's come off the bench today. He's going to start against Watford in midweek. Yeah. And Watford weren't good defensively at that point at all. You could say they haven't been all season. So I took a punt. No one else really brought him in. And then over the next 2 or 3 game weeks, he got like 30 points. And that was when I really shot up the ranks. Since then, it's not gone so well. So for me, that was a really lovely pick. And I did bring that in as well. That was a bit of a slightly emotional pick as well. But
was it? I remember that. I remember saying to you, like, Kelly's jumped on Mount so early and it's paid off. Like, he was just
gone one or two ways, like those calls. But yeah, and I might have mentioned it quite a few times on the FPL show. When we have pre-show meetings, Mount comes up, the producer was like, "Kelly, don't mention it again." I'm like,
does he say that? Brilliant. Oh, good stuff. I really enjoyed that. Good to hear so many stories as well from your time with England. I bet you've got so many. And maybe another time we'll have you back on Chasing Green Arrows to have some more, maybe ahead of the World Cup, to some sort of Camp England conversations. Guys, before we finish the stream, we are going to have comment of the week. But before we do that, hopefully we can show a couple more questions before we go. But look, guys, loads of you are watching at the moment. Thank you for joining. If you're new around here, please do give us a like. It massively helps us. But even more so, hit that subscribe bell, because we're here every Monday and every Friday at 7 p.m. And we'd love you guys to be part of our journey as we try and grow the channel. So FPL Overthinker John, is Martinelli going to start after the international break? He actually played for Brazil, John. I don't know if you saw. So he's fit. Mm-hmm. I think he's got 1 cap for Brazil. He looked quite sharp on the left-hand side of a front 3. I think Martinelli plays. I mean, look, they play on Monday, Arsenal, Kelly, right? So he's got enough time.
Yeah, I agree. There is Monday. That is a big help. And that's kind of what I'm clinging on to with Ramsdale as well, the fact that they play on Monday.
Yeah, exactly. I think Monday gives you an extra 2-3 days on most players, and sometimes with those players coming back from South America, you do worry about the long flights for the Saturday games. But I don't think we need to worry on that one. Desira says, and I think we'll make this our last question, guys. We're gonna swerve comment of the week, so we are tight for time. But Desira asks, who would you take out for James, Kilman, or Thomas? Thomas was dropped by Leicester last time out. But Kilman's been dropped as well. So who would you go for, Kelly? Who'd you take out?
Who's the third one? Kilman, Thomas, or
who'd you take out to bring Reece James in? If you drop Kilman or Thomas?
I think I would go Kilman, just because Leicester have got more fixtures, and I don't know. I just think that Thomas might play again. I don't. Oh, it's tough though, that, isn't it?
It's tough. I mean,
I don't either of those. I would personally take out Kilman.
They'll probably be your 5th defender. They'll probably be your 2nd or 3rd sub. So don't overthink it unless you're preparing for a bench boost. And then I'd say, yeah.
I also think Thomas is a little bit more upside too, potentially, as well, if he does start. So I would, if you want to be a bit riskier, I would keep Thomas and get rid of Kilman.
Yeah, definitely more upside. Definitely, yeah. He's done well on the left, and Rodgers clearly likes him. So I think I'm with you there. Guys, thank you for watching. That's probably all we've got time for today. But Kelly, it's been amazing to have you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Look at this, by the way. I started this in daylight and now
Yes.
it's dark. But no, it's been a blast. Thank you so much for having me on. And I think I'm not going to wildcard, so thank you for your help. But I'll let you know on social media tomorrow.
Yeah, do follow Kelly for those socials. Guys, thank you very much for watching. We've been Chasing Green Arrows. I've been Gianni. She's been Kelly. See you later.